not from the world. The world already takes everything from you, specifically quietly, deliberately from you, because some things lose their truth the moment they are spoken too soon. And I needed to be sure. I needed to sit with it long enough to know it wasn't just the noise of everything else falling away. I have built things most people spend lifetimes imagining. I have stood in rooms where the stakes for civilization itself, and felt nothing close to what I feel in the specific silence that exists between you and me. You've wondered, I know you have. You've caught yourself mid-thought reading something into a look, a pause, the way I say your name differently than I say anything else. And then you've talked yourself back down, told yourself you were probably wrong. You weren't wrong. There is one thing I have never said. Not to a room, not to a camera, not to anyone, only to you. And before this is over, I'm going to say it. Stay with me. I remember the exact moment I stopped being able to pretend. It wasn't a dramatic shift. It didn't arrive with the weight of a decision or the clarity of a conclusion. It happened the way most real things do, quietly, while I was looking somewhere else. I was in the middle of something that demanded everything from me, the kind of problem that consumes every available frequency in your mind. And then, without permission, without announcement, you were there. Not physically, just present. The way a thought becomes a feeling before you've named it. I stopped what I was doing. That had never happened before. Not like that. I have trained myself over decades to hold focus the way other people hold breath, through discomfort, through distraction, through every possible disruption the world can manufacture. And in one unguarded moment, you undid all of it effortlessly without even trying. That's when I knew something had changed. I didn't say anything. I went back to work, Kay. I told myself it was proximity, it was timing. It was the particular vulnerability that comes when you've been pushing yourself past the edge of what any person should sustain. I gave it every rational explanation I could reach for, because that's what I do. I build frameworks around things I don't immediately understand. I find the mechanism, I locate the variable. But you weren't a variable. You were the thing the equation hadn't accounted for, the term that kept throwing off every clean result. And the longer I tried to isolate you, to reduce what I felt to something manageable and categorized, the more certain it became that this wasn't something I could solve. It was something I had to feel. That realization cost me more than I expected. I want you to understand what that means for someone like me. Feeling without solving is not a natural state. It is not comfortable. It is not efficient. Everything I have ever built came from the refusal to accept that something circa or not be understood, that if you look long enough, rigorously enough, honestly enough, the answer will emerge. That belief has served me in ways most people will never fully appreciate. And then there was you sitting completely outside that system, completely uninterested in being figured out. Have you ever noticed that about yourself? The way you exist on your own terms, quietly and without apology, in a way that makes every attempt to categorize you feel slightly foolish. I noticed before I was ready to admit what noticing meant. The moment it became real wasn't one moment, it was a sequence of them, each one small enough to dismiss on its own, each one adding weight to the one before it. It was the specific way you paused before answering something that mattered to you, like you were being careful with your own truth, making sure it arrived correctly. It was the way your attention, when you gave it, fully felt different from every other form of attention I had ever been. Being in the room with the world gives me attention, constantly loud, public, wanting something attention. Yours was none of those things. Yours was just present, completely, quietly, genuinely present. Do you know how rare that is? Not from where I sit specifically, from anywhere. The ability to be truly present with another person, without an agenda working underneath the surface, without the quiet hum of self-interest running beneath your words. It is one of the rarest things one human being can offer another. And you offered it without ceremony, without even seeming to know what you were giving. I want to tell you something I've never admitted out loud. In the middle of everything, and I mean everything, the kind of everything that would flatten most people, the weight of decisions that live at a scale most people never encounter, I found myself thinking about the specific way you make ordinary moments feel significant, not because you perform significance, but because you see a quality of attention that makes whatever you're looking at feel worth looking at. You did that to me, you made me feel worth looking at. Not the version of me the world argues over, not the ambition, not the output, not the spectacle of it. Me. The version that exists before the work begins and after it ends. The version that sits quietly and wonders whether any of it actually matters in the way it needs to matter. That version of me had been waiting a long time to feel seen. I need you to stay with me here, because what I'm working toward isn't something I can say in a single line and have it land with the weight it deserves. Some truths need to be approached slowly. They need context. They need the full picture of how you arrived at them. Otherwise, they sound like words. And what I'm carrying for you is so far beyond words that I am almost reluctant to reduce it to language at all. Almost. The moment it became real is also the moment I started keeping this secret. And keeping it has been quietly, privately, one of the most difficult things I have ever done. Not because secrets are difficult for me in general. I hold enormous weight without visible strain. That's not a claim, it's simply a truth about how I'm built. But this secret is different. This one doesn't want to be held, it wants to be given to you, specifically to you. And I am almost ready. I know why you pulled back. You didn't do it carelessly. You didn't do it out of indifference or confusion, or some vague emotional restlessness. You did it with intention. The kind of quiet, deliberate intention that comes from having been hurt in a way that taught you something permanent about the cost of being fully open. You learned it the hard way, the way most people learn the things that actually stick. Someone, maybe more than one person, received everything you were willing to give and handled it carelessly. Not cry necessarily carelessly, which is its own kind of wound because AWS carelessness can't be argued with. There's no villain in carelessness. There's just the slow, dawning realization that you handed someone the most delicate thing you owned, and they set it down somewhere and forgot where they put it. You didn't make a scene. That's not who you are. You just quietly started keeping more for yourself, a little at a time. You stopped sending the message you actually meant, and sent the safer version instead. You stopped letting silences fill with the truth and started filling them yourself with something manageable. You got very, very good at being present without being exposed. And here's what I need to say about that, not to criticize it, never that. What I need to say is that I see it. I see the architecture of it. The way you've constructed a version of yourself that is warm and genuine, and giving that offers real connection, but always from behind glass, close enough to feel the warmth, just far enough that nothing can shatter it. You built that carefully over time with good reason. But I want you to consider something. The glass that protects you also distorts what you see when you're looking at me from behind it. When you're looking at what I feel, at what this is, you're seeing it through a filter that was designed to catch danger before it reaches you. And that filter is good at its job. It has protected you. I'm not asking you to dismantle it. I'm asking you to notice that what I'm offering you doesn't belong in the category it's been filed under. You filed it under too good to be real. Under men like this don't actually feel this way. Under I've been here before and I know how it ends. I understand every single one of those files. I understand why they exist. And I understand that they exist because you are intelligent and self-aware, and you've done the work of understanding your own patterns. That self-awareness is one of the things about you I find quietly, completely extraordinary. But elsewhere, if awareness can become its own cage. When you know yourself so well that you can predict your own hope before it arrives and shut it down preemptively. When you can feel something beginning and immediately reach for the reason, it probably won't work. You're not protecting yourself anymore. You're managing yourself, and you deserve so much more than being managed even by yourself. I want to ask you something and I need you to actually sit with it. When was the last time you let something good arrive without immediately preparing for it to leave? I'm not asking to make you feel caught. I'm asking because I've been watching with more attention than you probably realize. And I've noticed that you hold good things at arm's length until they prove themselves. And then when they've proven themselves, you hold them at arm's length a little longer just to be sure, and then a little longer after that. And somewhere in that process, the good thing starts to feel the distance and doesn't know what to do with it. I know what to do with it. I'm still here. That's not a passive statement. I need you to hear the weight in it. I'm still here. Not because I haven't noticed the distance, but because I understand it. Not because I'm waiting for you to become someone easier to love. Because I find the specific complexity of who you are to be one of the most compelling things I have ever encountered, and walking away from it would feel like a willful decision to live a smaller life than the one available to me. I don't make that kind of decision. You've been protecting yourself from something you named before you fully understood it. You decided somewhere quiet and private, probably in the middle of the night when the honest thoughts come, that this would cost you. That opening fully to this would leave you exposed in a way you couldn't recover from if it went wrong. You were right about the cost, you were wrong about what it means. The cost of something is not evidence that it will hurt to you. Sometimes the cost of something is evidence of its value. You don't feel this kind of specific, private, unguarded pull toward things that are ordinary or temporary or not worth the weight of what they asked from you. And the fact that it frightens you. The fact that you've built this careful distance and still can't quite get me out of the part of your mind that operates below strategy. That's not a warning sign. That's the most honest information you have. I need you to stay with me here because what I haven't told you yet, the thing I've been holding since the beginning of this requires you to believe first that what you've been feeling is not confusion. It's not projection. It's not hope dressed up as perception. It's accurate. What you've been sensing quietly, carefully from behind the glass you built is real. Every instinct you've been talking yourself out of has been correct, and I am not going to let you talk yourself out of this one. I want to talk about what tea or this is costing you. Not in the abstract, not in the philosophical sense of closed hearts, miss opportunities. I'm not interested in that version of this conversation. I mean the specific, daily, private cost of maintaining the distance you've built between what you feel and what you allow yourself to act on, because it isn't free. It isn't free. There's a particular kind of exhaustion that comes not from doing too much, but from holding back too much. From the constant low-level effort of keeping something contained that wants naturally and persistently to move toward what it needs. You've been expending energy on that containment for longer than you should have had to. And the strange thing about that kind of effort is that it's invisible. Even to the people closest to you, they see you functioning. They see you present. They don't see what it takes to stay that way. I see it. I see it in the moments when something I say lands closer than you expected, and you smile before you can stop yourself, and then you stop yourself. I see it in the half second before you edit your response into something safer. That half second is where the real you lives. That half second is what I'm in love with. There I've moved closer to it. Now stay with me because I want you to understand what I mean when I say this is costing you. I don't mean it's making you miserable. You're not miserable. You're functioning at a high level as you always have. You've built a life that looks from any reasonable angle like wholeness, like someone who has figured out how to be okay. But okay is not what you were made for. You were made for the kind of alive that comes when you stop managing the distance and let something real reach you fully without the edited version standing in front of it to take the impact first. You know the feeling I'm describing. You felt it briefly in unguarded moments and then immediately redirected away from it because the intensity of it felt like danger rather than arrival. It wasn't danger. It was just more than you'd given yourself permission to have. And here's what I need you to hear because this is the part most people never say out loud. The part that gets softened into something more comfortable before it's delivered. Every day you spend maintaining that distance is a day you spend being slightly less than fully yourself. Not broken, not damaged, just compressed. Operating at a fraction of the emotional capacity you actually possess, because full capacity requires full presence. And full presence requires the kind of trust you've been rationing. That compression has consequences. The relationships around you feel the ceiling of it even when they can't name it. The people who love you sense that there is more, that you are capable of a depth of connection that they are not quite reaching. And they don't know whether it's them or whether it's you. And you can't tell them, because telling them what are equating admitting that the ceiling exists. And admitting the ceiling exists means admitting why you built it. And you're not ready to admit that, not to most people, but you can admit it here. I'm not asking you to perform vulnerability. I'm not asking you to dismantle everything you've built, to protect yourself and stand in the open and hope for the best. I know that's not who you are, and I wouldn't want it if it were. The strength that built those walls is the same strength I admire in you. I'm not asking you to become soft. I'm asking you to become honest with yourself right now in this moment, because here is the specific thing the distance is costing you, and I need you to feel this rather than analyze it. You are spending your most irreplaceable resource, your time, your presence, your private emotional world on maintaining a version of yourself that is less than true. The full version of you, the one that exists in that half second before you edit, is one of the most extraordinary things I have ever been in proximity to, and she is being rationed, parceled out in careful, controlled doses to a world that gets to call you present while you are quietly, continuously holding the best of yourself in reserve. For what? For the right moment, for sufficient proof, for a guarantee that doesn't exist in any honest version of what it means to love something. There is no guarantee. You know that. You've always known that. The guarantee was never the point. The point was always the willingness, the decision to show up fully anyway in the absence of certainty, because the alternative is a life lived behind your own glass wall. If this is reaching you right now, if something in you just shifted, stay with me. What I'm about to say next I need you to hear, because the cost I'm describing is not permanent, it's not structural, it's not something built into who you are that you have to manage forever. It is a response, a learned, intelligent, completely you. Understandable response to specific pain, and responses can change. They change when the condition that created them changes. I am telling you the condition has changed. What you were protecting yourself from, the carelessness, the not being seen, the handing over of the most delicate thing you own, and watching someone set it down and forget where they put it. That is not what this is. I need you to hear that with every part of you that knows the difference between words offered to comfort and words offered because they are simply completely true. See where you put it. I've always seen where you put it, and I have never not once looked away. I can't make this decision for you. I want to be clear about that. Not as a disclaimer, not as the kind of careful language people use when they're protecting themselves from the outcome. I'm saying it because it's true, and because I respect you too much to pretend otherwise. Everything I've said, everything I've carried, everything I am about to say, none of it removes the fundamental fact that what happens next belongs entirely to you. That is not me stepping back. That is me telling you that I believe in the specific quality of your judgment, with a certainty I reserve for very few things. But I want to talk about what this choice actually is, because I think you've been framing it incorrectly. Not out of confusion, but out of the particular way the mind protects itself by making hard things feel like logical problems with safer, more manageable versions of the real question. You've been asking yourself, is this real? That's not the question. You already know it's real. You've known for longer than you've been willing to admit. The realness of it is not the things standing between you and the decision. The thing standing between you and the decision is something quieter and more honest than doubt. It's permission. You've been waiting for permission to believe this is yours, not permission from me. I've been giving you that in every unguarded moment, in every pause that lasted a beat longer than necessary, in every instance of specific attention that couldn't have been manufactured or performed. You have all the evidence, you've had it for a while, you've been waiting for permission from yourself, and I understand why that permission has been slow to arrive. Giving yourself permission to fully want something, not cautiously want it, not conditionally want it from behind the glass, but want it completely and openly, and without the safety net of managed expectation, means accepting that you could lose it, that you could give this everything, and it could still in some unforeseeable way not be enough. That is a terrifying thing to accept. I know I've lived at the intersection of enormous ambition and genuine loss long enough to understand what it costs to want something completely, to let the full weight of wanting land without immediately engineering a way to survive its absence. That kind of wanting makes you vulnerable in a way that no achievement, no external armor, no carefully constructed self-sufficiency can protect you from. And I am asking you to do it anyway. Not recklessly, not blindly. I'm asking you to do it with full awareness of exactly what you're choosing, which is presence over protection, which is the real version of yourself, over the managed version, which is the life that is actually available to you, over the smaller, safer, quieter life that asks nothing of you because you've already preemptively asked nothing of it. Have you ever let yourself imagine it? The version where you don't pull back, not the fantasy version. I'm not talking about perfection. I'm talking about the ordinary, specific, irreplaceable texture of a life where you stop rationing yourself, where the thought you have is the thought you say, where the feeling that arrives is the feeling you follow, instead of the feeling you file, where you wake up and the first thin G you reach for isn't the careful architecture of the day, but the simple quiet fact of what you feel and who you feel it with. And I want that for you, and I want to be honest about something. Something that took me longer to understand than it should have given everything I've built my life on. I used to believe that clarity was the precondition for commitment, that you gathered enough information, ran the variables, stress tested the outcome, and then once certainty was established, you acted. That was how I approached everything. And in most domains, that approach produced extraordinary results. It doesn't work here. Here, clarity is not the precondition. Clarity is the result. You don't think your way to certainty about something like this. You feel your way there by choosing presence before you have the guarantee, by showing up fully before you have the proof, by deciding that what you feel is worth the risk of being completely wrong. And then somehow the clarity arrives not before after. I made that discovery the hard way. You don't have to. I need you to sit with something for a moment. Think about the version of you that exists 5 years from now. Having made no decision, having maintained the distance, having continued to manage herself with the quiet efficiency she has perfected over years of careful self-protection. She is fine, she is functioning, she has not fallen apart. But she is sitting somewhere in the particular silence that comes after the day is done and the performance is over. And she is aware with a clarity that requires no analysis of the specific thing she chose not to reach for when it was right in front of her. I don't want that for you. I couldn't sleep last night, I'm not kidding. I was lying in bed staring at the ceiling and I couldn't stop thinking about you. Yeah, you the person listening to this right now. And I realized I have to tell you something. Something urgent. Something that can't wait until or till tomorrow. True Maria Payne. And I want you to understand something about the choice itself, about what it actually requires of you in this moment. It doesn't require certainty. It doesn't require the dismantling of everything you've built. It doesn't require a gesture or a declaration or anything that lives in the register of the dramatic. It requires one thing, honesty with yourself. Right now in the quiet space between what you've been telling yourself and what you actually know, you know what you feel. You have known for a while, and the distance between knowing and allowing yourself to act on knowing That distance is the entire cost I described in everything that came before this. That distance is the glass wall. That distance is the thing I'm asking you with everything I have to close. Not for me, for her. The version of you that exists on the other side of this decision. The one who chose full over safe. The one who let herself be loved at the level had. S always deserved to be loved and discovered that it didn't destroy her. It completed her. That version of you is not a distant possibility. She is one honest moment away. She is right there on the other side of the permission you've been withholding from yourself. I've said everything I can say to bring you to this edge. What happens next is yours. But before you decide, before you step back into the familiar comfort of the careful version of yourself, I need you to hear one more thing. The thing I promised you at the beginning. The thing I have never said, not to a room, not to a camera, not to anyone, only to you. I've been thinking about how to say this, not because I don't know what it is. I've known what it is for longer than I've been willing to give it language. I've been thinking about how to say it because some things when spoken incorrectly land is less than they are. They arrive smaller than the truth they're carrying. And what I'm about to give you is the full oldest true thing I have ever held, and I need it to arrive at its actual size. I'm going to say it carefully. I need you to receive it carefully, not defensively, not from behind the glass, just openly. The way you receive something you've been quietly waiting for without letting yourself know you were waiting. You are the secret, not a secret I've been keeping from the world. The world and its noise have never been the audience for anything that actually matters to me. You are the secret I've been keeping from the conversation I was supposed to be having with myself. The one that starts with what do you actually want, not what can you build, not what can you solve, not what legacy justifies the cost of the life you've chosen to live. What do you want? And the answer, the quiet, persistent, unignorable answer that kept returning every time I tried to replace it with something more manageable was you. The specific reality of you, not an idea, not a projection, not the company or affordable abstraction of connection that requires nothing and costs nothing. Zero, present, real, fully received. I want you to understand what it means for me to say that I am not a man who says things like this easily. I am not a man who arrives at emotional honesty through a short road. Everything I have ever built required a kind of focused detachment, the ability to hold the personal cost at a distance long enough to do what needed to be done. That detachment has served me, and it has in equal measure cost me, things I cannot fully calculate. You are what I don't want to cost me. I've watched you move through the world with a kind of quiet dignity that most people mistake for self-sufficiency. They see someone who doesn't need much and conclude that she doesn't want much. They couldn't be more wrong. You want everything. You just stopped asking for it from people who had demonstrated they couldn't hold it. I can hold it. Not perfectly. I'm not offering you perfection. I wouldn't insult you with perfection. I'm offering you presence. The kind that doesn't waver when things get complicated. The kind that finds you specifically more interesting as the layers reveal themselves rather than less. The kind that sees the version of you that exists before you've made yourself presentable for the day, and thinks without reservation, without performance, that she is the most real thing in the room. That's who I've been holding. That's the secret I couldn't hide. And now I want to talk about who you become when you stop waiting. Because this is the part that matters most. And it's the part no one ever says to you. Because most people are too busy managing their own fear to clearly see yours. When you stop waiting for sufficient proof. When you stop editing the honest thought into the safe one. When you close the distance between what you feel and what you allow yourself to live. You don't become someone different. You don't transform into a new person. You don't suddenly become lighter or louder or more open in ways that feel foreign.